Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for our next speaker? Woot! I'm excited, right? Because this speaker is like pretty much the opposite of me. Accomplished, good-looking, and can do sports, right? Three things which, no. Our next speaker is pretty engaging because not only has he had success in the sporting field, but also business and in life in general as well. He draws upon a lifetime of not just successes, but heartaches too, and inspires others to follow their dreams and achieve their success, not just in sport, but in business and in life in general. He regards representing his country as the ultimate honor, so much so that he actually represented our country in two sports, rugby and bobsled. Amazing. In 2006, he was in the Winter Olympic Games in Torino. He piloted Australia's two-man bobsleigh to the equal best ever Australian result in the Winter Olympics, which is amazing, and he went to the beautiful city of Vancouver as a member of the bobsleigh team. Then he's passionate about inspiring and engaging people to be all they can be. So before he comes on stage, we're going to show a brief clip. Would you turn your attentions to the screens?
I think sport teaches you life lessons, and you know, I pride myself on being an Olympian, and I think Olympians stand for a lot more than just that performance. It's the journey to get there, and it's how you deal with things.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the field to the ice, to the stage of Halogen, would you please welcome the man, the montage, Jeremy Rolleston.
Hello, mate.
Hey, mate.
Nice to see
Good
you
to see
again.
you.
Hi, everybody. Hey, thank you for having me. A Winter Olympic athlete on a 38-degree day. That's pretty cool. And Murray saying I'm good looking. That's even better. Listen, I want to tell you a little bit of my story, and I want to share with you a little bit about following your dreams. So my encouragement is have a think right now about a dream that you might have. And then let me tell you a little bit about my dream and why I would put one of my worst ever moments on an introductory video. It'll all make a little bit of sense shortly. So I had a dream. That dream was to play for the Wallabies and to go to the Winter Olympics. I didn't know if it would actually happen, but I remember when I was 12 years old, sitting in my chair in little old Pennant Hills, and I watched the opening ceremony of the 1984 Olympics. And I'll never forget that moment because something sparked on the inside of me. I saw these people walking into the ceremony. They were the fittest looking. They looked so proud. They looked so happy. I just wanted to be one of those. I didn't know if I had the ability to get there. But you've got to know that I remember that moment like it was yesterday, sitting in that little chair, my dream was sparked on the inside of me. And so off I went through school. I was always pretty good at sport, but I was never the guy. I was never the best at sport. But played a lot of sport, and my first success came when after school, I was playing a lot of rugby, and after school I made first grade for Eastwood when I was 19. And so I remember one of my highlights in my career was when I was 19, it was 1991, and there was this guy called David Campese, and he had just won World Player of the Year when Australia won the World Cup. And guess who had to mark him in his next game? It was like me. I was like a boy against a man, little old me against the world's best player. And so I had a great fun time playing my rugby, and my biggest success came in 1998 when I was chosen in the Australian Sevens squad. And the World Cup in seven-a-side was in Hong Kong, a thing called the Hong Kong Sevens. And 2 weeks before the Hong Kong Sevens, they chose 2 Australian teams to go, a possibles and a probables. And so off we went to Fiji. And funnily enough, I'd had a good tournament, but the crazy thing was, just by fluke, Australia A drew Australia B in the quarterfinal. So it was war. 2 weeks later, they were going to take 20 people down to 10. And the coach came up to me before and he said, "Jeremy, you're playing really well. Keep playing well and you've got a shot at your dream of playing for the Wallabies." And I had a great game. And 2 minutes from the end, I was scoring a try against my opposite number, which was obviously pretty good for selection. And as he tackled me, snap, I felt something. And you know when you've hurt yourself badly? It's not like you're screaming. You don't even need to make a sound. I knew from that moment that what just happened to my knee was not good. And I snapped my cruciate. And I remember being on the ground crying. Anyway, got back home. 2 days later, Mark Eller, the coach, rings me. "Jeremy, how are you?" "Yeah, great, Mark. How are you?" "Good. Congratulations. Your dream of playing for the Australian rugby team is come true. I've selected you for the World Cup Sevens in 2 weeks' time." I was on crutches. I couldn't walk. There was no way I could play. There was no way I could run. There was no way I could walk. So what did I do? Well, the first thought was I thought I'd fake it and then just fake an injury at training. At least I'd get the gear right. But I didn't. And I had to tell him that unfortunately that tackle in Fiji had snapped my cruciate and I couldn't play. So my dream was crushed. And the other thing that you might not realise is that in seven-a-side rugby, that became part of the Commonwealth Games for the first time in 1998. Australia won a bronze medal. I was in the Australian squad in 1998, didn't get to play in the World Cup, never got selected for the Commonwealth Games, never got a Commonwealth Games bronze medal. My dream was crushed. So then I went over and I played overseas in Italy. That's the photo of me on the bottom in the red and blue. Went to play professionally for an Italian side. And then I was back here at Christmas and I ran into this guy who was one of Steve Bradbury's teammates in the short track speed skating team. Who knows who Steve Bradbury is? Right, so a little point for you. Do you know that Steve Bradbury was already a world champion and already an Olympic bronze medalist before he had that weird thing happen and he won the gold medal in a very weird way? So for those of us in the winter fraternity, he's actually got a lot of credibility, a lot of kudos. So this guy says to me, "Well, Jeremy, if you're not sure if you're going to play rugby, why don't you have a go at bobsled?" I'm like, "Bobsled? Do I look Jamaican to you, mate?" And then he's like, no, you know, this is the sport, this is what you do, you can run fast, you're strong, why don't you give it a go? So that started this curious journey of bobsled and how an Australian would get into bobsleigh. And anyway, off I went and I spent the next 3 years training for the 2002 Salt Lake City Games. It was an amazing journey. I met all these people. I'll never, ever forget my first ride because I just remember thinking, this is pretty scary. How can I get out of here and still maintain my reputation? Anyway, off I went and it was a great journey. So guess what? We qualified for the Olympics. I always had a dream of going to the Olympics, but that's not the end of the story. A week before the Olympics, the phone rings. "Hi, Jeremy, it's Patrick Dodd here." That was the president of the Bobsleigh Association. G'day, Patrick. How you going? Good. Look, Jeremy, I'm not sure how to tell you this, but the Australian Olympic Committee has decided not to send you guys to the Olympics. What do you mean? We qualified. Yeah, but the Australian Olympic Committee maintains the right to send whoever they want to the Olympics, and they've decided that 27th in the world isn't good enough for them to send you. So they're not sending you, and there's nothing you can do about it. A week later, I watched the opening ceremony, and I watched Greece walk in. We'd smashed them and beaten them. They're always the first to walk in. I watched Armenia walk in. And then I watched Australia walk in, and I burst into tears and ran out of the room. I had 2 dreams crushed. So you've got to understand that I know what it's like to follow a dream, because I'm not the guy standing up here who's just had this ascension of highs. I'm the guy that knows what it's like to follow a dream and has had as many lows, if not more lows, as he's had highs. So maybe that will help you understand that when I turned around in 2005 and decided, you know what? I don't want to live my life knowing that my 2 massive dreams were crushed, and I sort of lay down and just, that's what my life looks like in sport. So I decided I'm going to give it another shot and put my heart on the line, and it took a lot of guts to do that after 2 dreams had been crushed in the manner that they had. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it properly. So I went to my boss and I said, can I have 9 months off, leave without pay? He said, why? And I said, because I need 5 months to train full time in the gym here, to put on weight and get stronger. And then I need 4 months to do the World Cup circuit and the Olympics. So it was a lot of hard work. And so I've got a photo here of some of the hard work. You'll see on the right, for those of you who like weights, we had to lift a lot of heavy weights. So in squatting, we would get up to between 250 and 270 kilograms. I think that's about 210. Had a lot of supplements there to put on weight. We had a little sled down the bottom we used to push and put weights on, which sounds really cool running's like, doesn't it? But actually all the teams in the world do stuff like that. And that night at the top, that's minus 18 in Calgary. And let me tell you that running in Lycra in minus 18 is well overrated. So it's a lot of hard work. But I tell you what, the amazing thing is, I got to the Olympics and they actually sent me. My dream came true. And this is the Vancouver track. I'm going to show you what it looks like to drive the sled. Picture a billy cart. That's how you steer like a billy cart. We get up to nearly 150 kilometers an hour. Have a look at the people on the side and you'll see how fast we're going. Going quite quickly now. This is the corner everyone crashes on. Pretty crazy, hey? I've got a love for speed, which might explain why I've lost my license twice. Not that I'm advocating that. So, bobsled's like driving a billy cart. You pull the left rope, you've got 2 ropes, you pull the left rope and the front 2 runners move and the back are fixed, literally like a billy cart. So imagine a billy cart going at 150 kilometers an hour with a wall right next to you, but the wall can be really quite high and you'll be as high as 5 or 10 meters in the air. And when you go around the corners, we have the G-forces of a fighter pilot, up to 4 Gs. That's bobsleigh. It's a great sport. even though it's pretty strange for an Australian to do it. So I told you that we got to the Olympics. One of the best moments about the Olympics is actually when you rock up to the distribution centre and you get all your gear. That's some of the photos at the top. They have these big suitcases ready with all this Australian gear for you. So that's pretty cool, and you try it on and make sure it's the right size. And then you go to the Olympic Village, and then the Australian team, they always have cool little Australian things waiting for you on the bed. So they have Vegemite and boxing kangaroo and lollies and not violet crumbles, not all the crap, but they have a whole lot of good stuff to make you feel at home. They also have messages from everybody throughout Australia, from all the schools. Maybe some of you have sent messages to Olympians. They're put on our walls to inspire us every time we're in our room. And the food hall's pretty crazy, because the food hall's the same size as this. And just picture every food you can think of. So if there's every country in the world at the Olympics, the Chinese eat different food to the Italians, who eat different food to the Russians, who eat different food to the French. So they've got to cater for that. So there's all these tables and all this food, and it's open 24 hours a day for the entire time. It's even got a McDonald's in there. So you've actually got to be really strict, because you could be in this really good shape and then you hit the food hall and you eat yourself out of shape. And you meet some very, very cool people. But the thing that I will never, ever, ever forget, do you remember that photo I put up at the start when I was 12 years old and I saw those people walking in at the opening ceremony? That's me, right there. That photo that you can see, that's me. I became that person. My dream became a reality. And the other thing that I'll never forget is the whole reason you're there is to compete. I'll never forget the feeling of competing for Australia and the pride of competing for Australia. And so that's a bit of my story, which will explain what I want to share with you. I want to share with you a couple of points around following your dreams. So here's the thing. Most people won't start going for their dream unless they know that they think they're going to get it. Would you agree? But I'll tell you what, the thing that I've learned is you are better off regardless. So 20 years from now, you're going to be more disappointed by the things that you don't do than by the things you do. Let me say that again. 20 years from now, you're going to be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the things you did. So let's say you're like me. You're going for your dream to play for the Wallabies or to be an Olympian, and it turns out crap. That's not ideal. I'll never get over it. I'll forever be disappointed. But disappointment is different from regret. And if you can understand that, it is going to change how you look at your life. Because if you understand that you'll always regret the things you don't do more than the things you do, when you think about the things you want to do in your life and you think about your dreams, you'll go for them. Because you'll realize that you're better off if you go for your dream. You'll be glad that at least you had the courage to go for them. You'll be a better person because you're stretched and you went for it. It's that saying that you've got, I'd rather shoot for the stars and end up here than not even give it a go. So you always regret the things that you don't do more than the things you do. And there's so much that I could tell you about following your dreams. And in fact, I interviewed 10 famous Australians. I'm going to give this away during question time about how they actually went about following their dreams in a book I wrote. But the last thought that I want to leave with you is this. I don't know if many of you think like I did at school, but I often used to think maybe my life is already set up. Okay, I've got to choose certain subjects, which means that gets me into a certain university course, and that means I do a certain job, and that means my life looks like this. That's crap. Your life is a blank page right now, and you create your future. You define your future. You create it. You determine the decisions that you make. You determine if you go for the Olympics for the second time after your dream's been crushed. You determine if you're going to be the person to go after your dreams or if you're just going to go, nah, maybe not because I'm not sure if I'm going to get it. Does that make sense? So the one thought I want to leave with you before we open up to question time is, you regret the things you don't do more than the things you do. And that's the story of my life. And that's why I would put a video of me crashing at my second Olympics, one of the worst moments of my life, even though I had a good Olympics, to illustrate the point that I don't regret it, I'm just disappointed. But it still means that I'll go after my dreams regardless. So thank you for your time. I'd love to take some questions. I know that, that we're open to questions. But I hope that that's been really beneficial for you in terms of you following your own dreams.
Hello. We do have time to ask some questions. Now, there's 3 ways you can do that. Obviously, you can raise your hand, you can text to the number on the screens, or you can tweet to the hashtag NYLD. Jeremy, maybe if I can kick us off, if I can. You're a man that sets goals and then works really hard to achieve them. So I guess my question would be, what are your next goals?
Actually, I don't know what my next goals are because I just achieved one. I wanted to become world champion in surf lifesaving. And I set that goal a year and a half ago. And a month ago, I won 2 world titles. So that was pretty cool.
Nice. That's pretty
so
amazing.
Maybe my goal is to sleep more now. I don't know.
That sounds good. Our first question comes to us from just down the back.
Hello.
Hello.
Beep, beep. Okay.
You don't have to, it's not a robot. You just
Can you tell us about your crash?
Yes, unfortunately. Basically, when I hopped in the sled, you have spikes with a whole lot of needles on, and one of my spikes got caught in part of the rope. And it sometimes happens because it's narrow in there. But what happened is, as I was trying to get my foot out, it snapped part of the steering, something that's never happened in my 10 years, which meant that I had no steering. And it's not good going that fast down curves without steering. So the worst part of my crash was that well before I crashed, I knew what was going to happen. It's like saying, here I am driving a car and I know I'm going to crash in 100 meters. It's not a very good feeling.
What speed were you going when it...
Maybe 100 kilometers an hour.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds really safe.
Yeah.
On your head.
On my head.
Great. Okay. Insane. Our next question comes to us from just up there. Your name, your school, and then ask away.
Hi, my name's Bhavana, and I'm from Moorebank. And my question is that how would you overcome the fear of failure?
Well, first thing, thank you for asking that question, and stay where you are because I'm going to give you a copy of my book after this. That'll give you a lot more insight, but a quick answer. Honestly, if you understand what I just said, and it's one thing to be theory and another thing to be actualized, if you understand that the fear of failure is what holds us back from so much, and that you're at a point right here now and you're going to try and you don't know if it's going to work or if it's going to fail, but you'll be better off regardless, and obviously you want this to happen, but even if it goes like that, if you'll be better off, then that fear goes. And honestly, every successful person that I've ever met understands that difference and they're willing to give it a go regardless. That doesn't mean that they do it willy-nilly. They're smart about it. They use every resource and motivation that they can, but they still understand the difference between disappointment and regret.
That's a deep answer. Great question. Next one comes to us from over here. Yes.
Hi, I'm Iman from MacArthur Girls. I just wanted to know, when you had all those setbacks and going through all those tough times, what did you use to motivate yourself, or did you have a support network of people?
Yeah, I had a support network, but I've got to tell you really quickly that my parents, I could see it in their eyes. I come from a close family, but they didn't want me to go on in 2006 and try for the Olympics again because they'd seen my heart crushed so many times. So when I looked in my father's eyes, he didn't want me to go on. So in fact, it was all me going on. And so, the one thing that I've learned about motivation is we think motivation is all about, I can do this, I can do that, in our heads. But real motivation comes from your heart. So when you have a dream and a deep dream, then it's reflected in passion, and it's also reflected in real deep motivation. And that's the thing that gets you over the obstacles. So a really quick example is, if you're getting up at 6 a.m. every morning just to get fit, to look good, and I'm getting up at 6 a.m. every morning to train to represent my country in Olympic Games, who do you think's going to get up when we both have injuries? It'll be me with much deeper motivation coming from a much deeper core place than you, who's just like, New Year's resolution, I'm going to get fit. Does that make sense?
So the goal kind of cements that, right?
The goal cements it. The goal's not the end game. The journey is as much about the journey as the end game.
That's great. Next question is from right at the back of the room. Yes.
Hi, Jeremy. My name's Davina. I go to Auburn Girls. I was just wondering, do you have any advice or like a tip for people like me or anyone else that wants to pursue a career in like sports? And like, what's a motto that you live by?
Honestly, the motto I live by is exactly what I was sharing, which is you've only got one life. It's mine to make what I want of that life. It's not anyone else's. It's not anyone else's to create for you, and it's not anyone else's to define for you, right? Now, there's a whole lot of wisdom and training and hard work in that, but honestly, it's my future to create, no one else's, so I'm going to make those decisions. So I would encourage you that if it's a deep dream that you have, then go for it. Now, I don't know how it's going to end up for you. I hope it ends up well. But I tell you what, I do know that you'll be better off regardless.
Awesome. Next question is from down the front here. Yes.
Pacific Hills. And so, yeah, what's your favourite sports player and why? Like your favourite motivation person?
That's a great question. I always liked Michael Jordan because everyone thought he was so talented, which he was, but he wasn't one of these sportsmen that was just talented. If anyone looks into him properly, they'll see that he was the guy that was sitting in the ice bath after every game, and he was the guy that practiced more than the average. And most people think that talent gets you there, but when you get to an Olympic level, it's not talent. It's talent and hard work and everything else that you add to it. So Michael Jordan, I'd say for me.
Next question is from just over here. Yes, other side of the room.
Hi, I'm Jordan from Great Lakes College. And I'd just like to say, what do you think was your greatest moment when you were playing rugby union?
Running on against the All Blacks, playing for Australia. Yeah.
That's a pretty amazing moment.
Go Aussie.
Do you have thanks Jordan for the question, do you have like a warm-up track, maybe it's different sports, that you play and you get really motivated?
I actually do have a playlist that's full of, or it's not one song, but I do have a playlist that I listen to before I compete, yeah. And it depends whether you want to be relaxed or fired up.
Nice. Our next question is from the back of the room again. Yes.
Hi, I'm Sophie and I'm from Mount View High School. My question is, how did you feel after you achieved your goal?
Amazing, because again, it's as much about the journey, and that's so cliche, isn't it? But it is. So I mentioned my two favourite moments about getting to the Olympics. Obviously, competing was one. That's why you go to an Olympic Games. That's why you train 6 days a week. But when I walked into the opening ceremony, it was about the pride of getting there and how I got there and what it took to get there, and that I had the courage to put my heart on the line again. So again, it really is as much about the journey as the goal, and for me, that's one of the satisfying things.
Jeremy, just time for one more question, which comes to us from just over here. Yes.
Hi, I'm Katerina from Fairvale High School, and I was wondering, I just saw that nasty accident, and after the accident, every time you jumped on the weird-looking cart, I don't know how to call it, but did you have flashback of what had happened? And if you did, how would you try to suppress it?
Yeah, good question. Again, please, both of you, I want to give you my workbook as well, so please come up here afterwards and I'll give it to you. How did I get over it? Yes, I had these demons in front of my eyes the next time I was at the top of the track, and it was one of those moments where you face your fears or you don't. and either my fears were going to define my next X amount of time, or I guess in my head, I'll tell you what I was saying. I'm going to look that dragon in the face, and I'm going to spit in its face. And that was what was going through my head. One of those moments where I'm either just going to shrink back and be so fearful, or I'm going to spit in its face and I'm going to go for it. And so the techniques that I would use were a whole lot of sports psychology techniques around staying relaxed, visualizing what you want the outcome to be, not what it can't be, being positive, not negative. And then once you're in the sled and you're going, you don't have time to think. You're just like, you better get this corner right, and you're concentrating.
Yeah, right. Hey, we want to thank Shannon, Billy, Cormac, and Keeley from Great Lakes College for running the mics. Thank you so much, all the way from Tuncurry. Thank you. Just before we finish up, one last question. You're going to be around and able to meet a few students here over the lunch break, which is great. But if schools wanted, is it possible for you to go out to schools and talk? Is that something you do?
Yeah, if I'm able to with time, if you would like me to come to your school, then you can just contact me on my website, jeremyrolleston.com, and I would be more than happy to if I'm able to do that with my day job. Again, I love inspiring people, and I want to inspire you today. Your future you will create. It's not already defined. And if you can get hold of some of the things that I've told you today, then again, I really hope that that's great for your entire life, not just for the next hour.
Awesome. That's great to be able to get back to your schools. Nice. We have Sarah and Maria from Bethany College to come and say thank you. Let's welcome these guys up to the stage.
On behalf of all the young leaders here today, we would like to thank you for your inspiring speech. Your perseverance has really inspired us to follow our dreams despite any obstacles we may encounter. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a huge round of applause. Jeremy Rolleston.
Thank you everybody.